Those of you who watch the show seem to have a lot to say. We hear from you about past shows we've done. You've made comments on our show on immigration, on nursing versus bottle feeding. Some of you even complain about the jewelry that we wear. Today, we are turning the show completely over to you. We're doing your viewer feedback, your emails, your Facebook posts, anything that you had to say. It's what we're talking about right now. Welcome to Right Now. I'm Jennifer Shookman, and we are here with Gavin Adams.
Yeah,
and
I just gave some feedback on the show, so it's going really well so far.
So when we get off, we'll already have some tweets and some things.
Yes.
We love your feedback. We love hearing from you, and we read it all, and we discuss it all, and we're so happy that you participate in it. And
absolutely.
Doesn't it just really help us to know what's working and what's not?
It's always great to know what people are thinking about.
We're not doing this for us.
Yeah.
It's for the viewers, right?
So people think differently than we do.
Right, they do. They do.
It's good to hear that.
And when we're wrong, they tell us.
Yes.
Which is great, because then we fix it if that's the case. I want to start with, we had a note from Mitty, who left a note on our website, which is rightnowontv.com, and you can go there and see show clips and leave comments and feedback. This is what Mitty said. I only caught a little of your program today. It was an interesting topic. I wanted to make a comment. I think it is right to be able to express one's opinion, but not if it's offensive, damaging, or hurtful to others. Sometimes what you have been taught or believe is incorrect. I think people should be open and actually evaluate what is being said. Bottom line, a person is really entitled to their opinion, right or wrong.
How cool is it, though, that and that's a mature position to be in, where you go, I may have been taught something that isn't right. That's hard to embrace.
It is.
That's awesome.
I was just going to say, Mitty, your opinion is wrong.
You may have been taught something wrong.
But no, what I love about that is she's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so the opinions expressed on this show are of those who express them. And so there's no formal endorsement of anything. We all are believers. We all hope that what we're saying is consistent with the Bible and with our faith, but sometimes we mess up, and sometimes there's just honest disagreement about how we read or interpret something.
But I think it's helpful to have those disagreements, because I think we all grow a little bit. You know, every time I think I know something, that's probably dangerous anyway, because it really is an opinion for the most part. But when I allow my opinion not just to be heard, but when I hear other people's opinion, it either helps confirm mine or it changes it.
It creates doubt, and I have to go find an answer.
And if it's changing it to something that's actually more true, that's a win.
Absolutely.
Instead of like holding on to something that we want to be true.
Absolutely.
That's great. Way to go.
Well, we love your feedback, and so there's lots of ways you can do it. You can leave it on our webpage at rightnowtv.com. You can do it on Twitter at rightnowontv. We also have an email. If you just want to send us a private email and keep it anonymous, we'll have some anonymous notes today. You can do that at rightnowtopics@gmail.com, or leave a post on our Facebook, which is, your Facebook, but at the end, put Right Now Topics, and you'll be taken to our Facebook. I want to start with an email from Virginia. She says she happened to come across our show. She thought it was very informative.
The state of Virginia or a person?
No, it's a Virginia person.
Oh, okay.
It's a person. Now, I don't think the entire state. That would be a lot of signatures.
I didn't know if it was an anonymous person from Virginia.
No.
It's a lovely state.
From Virginia. From Virginia. I didn't use last names because we didn't ask for permission.
That's
so we're
smart.
just using first names.
Smart.
So she says she kept getting distracted by Jessica Quinn, who's one of our regular panelists, that she was wearing a sideways cross. And she said, I believe she said she is a Christian. And yes, Jessica is very much a Christian. She says, if not, please ignore my comment and link, which I love, because she's basically saying, if she's not a Christian, then this doesn't apply to her. But she says, I myself do not feel that wearing sideways cross is being true to the actual cross on which Jesus Christ was crucified on. It was not laying down or upside down or whatever it stands, or whatever. It stands straight for humanity's sake. We have not given up on the cross or any other such nonsense. Anyway, I had to mention it for whatever it's worth. So you're a pastor, and I know when those crosses first came out, I was kind of like, oh, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And I noticed your wife was wearing one.
She sure does.
So,
she has one that's just like Jessica's.
So tell me
In fact, I bought it for her.
Okay. You're a pastor, and you're buying a sideways cross.
I may need to ask for forgiveness now. I'm a little worried.
Tell me your thinking behind that, then.
Yeah. The cross is such an interesting thing, right? Because obviously it's a symbol of Christianity, and it's a symbol of Christ's death, and really, everything about our faith rises and falls on grace and that cross. And so, and the resurrection is kind of important too. Maybe we should have like little tombs that we wear instead, but not sideways ones. Because, the thing about the cross is fascinating is that it really is kind of a newer thought that you would wear that as jewelry anyway. I mean, no one in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd centuries walking around with crosses celebrating that. I mean, that would be like you or I walking around with like a little electric chair emblem on a necklace, right? So,
meaning if you saw someone die on a cross,
you
would not consider that jewelry.
We've seen it in movies, and it doesn't even begin to do justice for what that was like. So,
so it'd be like us wearing like a machete from an ISIS thing or something. Once you've seen that, you would never
there's no way.
make jewelry out of it.
So I think that it's easy, and not to, I think Virginia has a great point. But I think that sometimes we can allow something that's a symbol become more important than what it symbolizes. I don't know that the cross is more important than what happened on the cross. I think the cross is a symbol, but I don't think it is that key or maybe that integral to faith that if you wear one sideways, it's going to throw everybody off of faith. I don't know that it's that big a deal, but that's my opinion to this point. I mean, it's my opinion, but I do think we have a tendency to make bigger deals out of things than maybe we should. In the end, I don't know that God's offended by the sideways cross. And even if he is, we're forgiven anyway.
Well, what
so if we get it wrong.
What I love about Virginia's email is she asks whether or not Jessica's a Christian and has the same beliefs. And then she basically says, I myself don't feel like this is the right thing. And there are probably other people out there who feel the same way as Virginia. And she's not, like, I'm never watching the show again because of that. She's just like, hey, I wanted to let you know. And we love that kind of feedback. We love it when you tell us that. And it's okay to disagree and have different views about that, but we love Virginia for expressing her view and for doing it in such a kind way. We've got more where this came from, lots of emails to discuss right after this break. Welcome back. Today, it's truly your show. We are talking about the emails, the Facebook comments, the posts that you've left. We're discussing them. And we had one question that was left by Anonymous who said, I have battled depression, and when I have been in those periods, I have been told to be thankful for what you have. I have always felt thankful, and I know others are trying to help when they say something like that, but it adds to the guilt and to the feelings of depression. I would like you to cover this sometime on a program on how a Christian should respond to someone dealing with depression. First of all, let me say, Anonymous, I'm so sorry. I know how hard and how difficult that is. And I do think that this is a topic that we could have a professional on and do a full show on. But I wanted just to kind of address, with you, what about the whole thing? Like we do, people go to church like, just be thankful, or God loves you, or, we say these sort of trite things.
Let me talk about the thankful part, but I want to hear what you think about this too, because I know you have some insight here. I feel like that, depression is such a debilitating thing, and it can be. And it's a real thing. It's not a in my head, if you can pray it away kind of thing. It can be a legitimate mental illness or a legitimate medical thing. And so, I don't think we should ever pretend that isn't true. The whole be thankful thing has always been fascinating to me. I think gratitude is helpful, but I think being responsible for what we have is a much higher calling than just being grateful for what we have. So I don't know that thankfulness and depression really do work together. I don't think the solution to getting out of depression is look around at all you have. I don't think that's what that is about. I think that being thankful is good. I think a better thing is to be responsible for what you have and to leverage it for the good of others. That is certainly a higher calling maybe, or a better thing to do than being grateful. But I'm not sure exactly. And as a person who hasn't suffered from that yet, hopefully, I won't, but who knows?
It's very common. It's like 1 out of 5
That's
or 10
right.
people or something.
And so I don't know that I can articulate even exactly what I would say to that person. I have a lot of conversations with people like that, but it's mostly, hey, let me help you connect with someone who's a therapist or somebody who can really walk through that with you. But I know one thing for sure, the answer isn't, well, just be thankful. Look around at all you have. That isn't helpful.
I think sometimes when we're going through something and somebody comes up with a verse or a simplistic statement like that, it's really, to me, that's obvious that they don't have an answer. Yes, the Bible is full of wisdom. Yes, there are things that we can do. Being grateful is a great thing we should all practice, whether we're depressed or not. But there may be more going on. There may be a medical condition, as you said. There may be a cause. There may be a reason that you need to change something, whether it's through medication or therapy, or sometimes just even circumstantial. I know you said you haven't gone through depression, but there was a time where you went through a great period of discontent, where you were really unhappy.
Well, I felt depressed during that time. Maybe it was. It was. I think our discontentment, though, I think sometimes, and again, this is a much longer conversation, but I think sometimes that is something that God leverages in us to move us, because we recognize discontentment, we recognize that internal turmoil, and we'll do anything to remove it.
Right.
I think sometimes God leverages that to get our attention. Sometimes He leverages that to get us moving towards something. And you know, I believe this to be true. I think God can course correct a moving vessel much better than He can get one moving if we refuse to get out of the dock, you know?
Right.
So I think sometimes that depression...
Well, and if life is good, why would we ever move?
That's right.
If things are great, why would we ever...
That's right. And the other side of the depression thing, too, I think God can leverage that to draw us closer to Him. This is why I meet people who have gone through tragedy or depression or any number of things that none of us want to go through.
Right.
And on the other side, they seem to all say the same thing if they allow God in it. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I'm glad I had it.
And some people say, I wouldn't want it taken away. I'd want to go through it again.
Because God did something in me through it. And I think that's the beauty of almost the gospel, if I could kind of be churchy for a moment or be a pastor like I am for a moment. I think that when we give God, you know, when we open our life up to God that way and we say, God, I hate this, but I'm giving it to you, He does something in it. It's what James wrote about in James chapter 1. I mean, it's consider it every trial, which depression is a trial. Consider that something that to be worthy of, and that God can leverage for good and do something in you through it. That's a fascinating and a mature position to have, which I think is one that we should maybe all strive to have, whether it's depression or any trial that we're going through.
Right.
The other thing, too, can I say this, too? I think this is such a big deal. I think sometimes we feel like that when we are depressed, that either God isn't removing it, or we feel like we shouldn't be that way if we're a Christian. Like good Christians don't feel
depressed.
And so
we have
there
the
must
joy
be,
of the Lord.
That's right. There must be something wrong with me, right? There must be something wrong with me if I feel this way, or there's something wrong with my relationship with God, or God's distant from me. And that is so not true. And I think we can easily find ourselves thinking that. So when we are depressed, one of the most detrimental things we can do is begin to believe that God isn't for us and that He's not with us. It couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it may be the thing that He leverages to bring us closer to Him than we've ever been.
Right.
Because He always has been there.
Right. Yeah, I would say to Anonymous that depression can cloud our thinking in ways that we don't even realize. And so do get help. There is help out there. I don't know what it looks like in your case. I don't know what it feels like, but know that you're not alone. Know that you are loved. Know that there are people around you who care about you. Maybe it's as simple as opening up to some of them and talking about it and letting them be there for you. And maybe just a chemical problem too. And maybe it is that medicine can help fix that. And, you know, we've all been there.
Okay with that too.
Yeah, exactly. That's another show we could do on that.
That's right.
We had another email actually from a viewer named Moses. He had a last name though, so it wasn't the Moses, and I didn't use it.
Dang, I wish it was.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be awesome.
Although, what questions would he ask us?
A tweet from Moses.
I would rather ask him a few questions.
At Burning Bush.
Burningbush.com.
Right.
So basically, Moses was talking about a conversation we had about pastors, and he said the thing that stood out most was the description of a pastor. One of the panelists talked about being a pastor and said that he had proof he was a pastor because he had a license. It may have even been you. I'm not even sure. But what Moses came back to say is that the only person who can give the authority to be a pastor is God, and that we shouldn't worry about a license. So you're a pastor. What is your thought on licensing versus God versus, you know?
Well, I mean, the idea of a pastor really is more of our connotation anyway. I mean, biblically, there's nothing in there that describes pastors. It does describe elders and overseers, which we have kind of leveraged that to kind of, as a pastor, when you become a professional overseer or a professional elder, when you're paid for it, that's typically what we would call a reverend, minister, pastor, priest. The license thing is important only because the state and the government requires it for some things. I don't think, though, that a license necessarily now makes you a pastor. I think the license gives you some things that you can legally do, which is important.
It makes you a pastor in the eyes of the government.
That's correct, which is important if you want to marry someone and sign a document, right? That is important. But the reality is that a pastor is anyone who is providing spiritual guidance to someone. You know, we, in our church, we're a church of small groups, and we have, you know, thousands of people in small group. All of the leaders of those small groups are pastors. Because they're shepherding and overseeing others. And trust me, we didn't license all of them and give them certificates. But we treat them that way, and we coach them to be that way, and we help them think of themselves that way. So in a lot of ways, as a Christian, we're all pastors. And we're all being pastored, licensed or not.
I love that, because I have been in a small group, and I felt that way where I've had to pastor people, and I feel like I need to take responsibility for my flock in that way, that is my flock.
Exactly.
Okay, we have gotten a really wonderful couple of emails, actually, from D'Amica. This is what she wrote on her website. She wanted to make some suggestions about shows she wanted to see, and these are some of the topics that she wants to see. Teen pregnancy, domestic violence, poverty, people who suffer laziness, unhealthy relationships with somebody, drugs, alcohol, prison, hanging with the wrong crowd, smoking, addiction, love, and clubbing. And she goes on to say that she loves the show, and it's helped her change her life in a godly way, and she likes that we do, topics in the Word of God. But then she must have been thinking about it further, because she wrote back again and said, here's some more topics: welfare, disabled people, freeloader relatives, senior citizens, internet, gossiping, helping the poor, cult, family favoritism, tithes, and offerings.
Wow.
And if that wasn't enough, she must have thought about it again.
There's
because
more?
She said as a third one. Yeah, she said, I want to see shows about demons, fornication, witchcraft, fear, judging others, Hollywood, entertainment, and the music industry. And thank you, and be blessed. So I just want to say, D'Amica, you win the prize for having the most suggestions of anybody, and we will do shows on some of those topics. And for those of you who are listening, we want to hear from you. We want to know what topics you're interested in. We talk about topics a lot, and we want to do something that's relevant to what's going on in your life. But I think maybe we should offer D'Amica a job as like a producer around here. What do you think?
Or at least let her lead the fornication show, like be a panelist or something on that. She can have my seat for some of these topics. Is that okay?
She can be. I don't know if she's offering, but she wants to hear.
There's a few that I'll let her do. She can have them.
All right, we're going to be taking a break, but when we come back, we have gotten some emails about you on the show about nursing versus bottle feeding, and so I want to make sure we address those questions.
We're going to do something else.
You want to stay tuned to find out a little bit more about that email. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. We are today throwing the show open to you. We are listening to your emails. We're commenting on them. We're responding to the things that you've left on our Facebook page, on our website, through Twitter. And somebody even left comments on our YouTube channel, which we'll get to in a minute. So we definitely are just wanting you to know that we love hearing from you. We love your topic ideas. We love your comments. We love it when you tell us we're wrong. We love all of those sorts of things. We love compliments, too. We like hearing that we're doing a good job. That's helpful, too.
It's all good.
We had one comment from a viewer named Sue who wrote in about the show on nursing versus bottle feeding. And I know that the comment that she wrote about was you, because you were the only guy on that show. So let me read the comment, and then we'll talk about that show.
About my opinion on this?
She said, the guy is inappropriate. He is intimidating young nursing mothers. They should not be told there's anything wrong with nursing anywhere. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
I don't. The only thing I want to say is that I wasn't supposed to be on that show. Is that right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, we had actually had, for that show, we had a panel of 4 women.
That's right.
And somebody at the last minute canceled, and we begged you to do the show. Yeah. And so you came in unprepared, and with very little experience.
Unprepared in every facet. Unprepared. Right. Outside of having 4 children myself, that I did not nurse. Right. But my wife did.
Exactly.
So,
but just let's make it clear. What is your position on nursing versus bottle feeding?
I really don't have a position on that. Is that okay? I mean, like, because I'm not a mom, and I don't know that it's my place to say that one is right and one is wrong. I mean, I think that there's some medical benefit that seems like has been researched and some things that we should pay attention to, but I also know that you don't have to follow that. So, I mean, I do think that there is some things about, I mean, I don't know. Do I have to talk about this? This is so weird.
No, I think
I think nursing in public, did I talk about that?
That may have been what the comment was.
I know that there are people who feel like that they should be able to have the freedom to do that wherever they want. I totally get that. I totally get that. I also have a 13-year-old son. And so while as a 40-year-old, I can appreciate the nurturing and the whatever of that.
And know enough to look away.
That's right, yeah, and not be weird for them or for me, you know.
Right.
I think that there's again, I mean, this topic feels like one that we could have 100 others where we go, if I want to do it, it's okay.
Right.
And I think my position is always,
right.
You can do things if you want to do them, but think of others, not just yourself.
Yeah, so you're not trying to intimidate people into not nursing or not nursing in public.
Oh, gosh, no.
The only thing you're saying is, hey, there's some 13-year-old boys out there.
Yeah.
Just consider that.
And I think it's just the whole thing about being respectful of others.
Right.
But you know what? Listen, that's a big deal for me anyway. Right. So anything that pushes back on, you know, I can do whatever I want as long as it didn't hurt other people. Well, I don't know. I think that's a little bit crazy anyway to think that way.
Right.
And I think people do treat this one as one of those things. And all I'm saying is I think we should always think of others.
But you're, just to clear it up, you were on that show, you're supportive of nursing mothers, you're supportive of your
I have
feeding
one at
mothers.
Home. Yeah, I mean, totally supportive of my wife. And a guy on a nursing show was super
it was
anyway.
awkward and weird, wasn't it? I think that was the show where you said the least.
So when I tried to hide the most, I'd be on that show.
All right, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to clear that up because we did appreciate you coming in that day when we
Almost
had a cancellation.
Everybody did.
So.
Thanks.
And we're thankful to Sue to give us the opportunity to talk a little bit more about it. On another show we got some comments on is one, I think it was the one we did on education. We talked about various kinds of education, public, private school, homeschooling, and that recently aired in repeat, and we got a couple of tweets. One was from a wife, and the second was from her husband, and they both basically said we should have had somebody on the show who knew about homeschooling. But you do homeschool, right?
We have and still are. We've had our children in public schools through elementary, for the most part. We've had them in homeschool during their middle school years because for various reasons, and you know, a lot of good ones, and then we've actually allowed our daughter. She just went to 9th grade last year. She's a sophomore this year, so she re-engaged in public high school for a lot of good reasons for that. And so, yeah, we're very familiar with homeschooling, and I'm a huge supporter of it. I'm more of a supporter of homeschool. Can I say this one? I'm more of a supporter of homeschool when it benefits the pacing of the family and it benefits the child individually. I'm less a fan of it when it's about removing people from the world. Yeah. Because I think as a believer, we're called to engage in the world. It's hard to change something you're not engaged with. Right. And so the people I meet who are, you know, homeschooling their kids to protect and shelter, that, I'm not so sure about that, but I love the idea of homeschooling for great reasons. Right. And we've done that. I mean, actually, I have two children right now who are homeschooled. Yeah.
Well, and let me just say, that show it was about options in education. Yes. And so if we were to do a show on homeschooling, I think you're right. It would be fair to have somebody who is maybe a proponent of it, or maybe somebody who's a proponent and somebody who's against it, but that has a lot of experience, that attends all the meetings, that knows the different curriculums, you know, that is really into it. And that's not you. No. And it's not your wife either. It's what the decisions you made were the best ones for your kids. That's right. At the time, that homeschooling was one of several decisions you've made over the course of that.
In fact, we had one of our kids in homeschool, and then we took him out and put him back in school for a year or two because they needed to mature some before they came back home, you know? So, and I hope he's doing his homeschool right now because he's at home right now. So
we thought it was a good comment, but again, it was a show. It was about all of the different things.
That's good.
Pam wrote in after our show on immigration. She said, all people want better, so many come in illegal. When immigrants get by without paying taxes, that is our government's fault. We should treat all equal. Jesus was an immigrant when Joseph and Mary escaped from Pharaoh. So, thoughts on immigration? And
Jennifer, what are your thoughts on immigration?
You know what? This is what I'm so conflicted on. I really believe that immigrants are the strangers that were referred to in the Bible. Yeah. And there's such great information in the Bible about what we should do for strangers who are in our midst, and I think that's who immigrants are now. And so part of me just wants to help and do everything I can and support and do that. The same token, then I realize that there are people paying for the system and it can't sustain itself the more people we add to it. Right. On the other hand, I feel like we're so blessed. Why wouldn't we share everything we have if we can anyway? So I'm officially like, don't ask me policy because I have a bleeding heart and a head that says the numbers don't balance.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that's never going to happen, but if it did, it would solve the problem. I think if Christians just behaved like Christians, most of these problems would kind of go away anyway. The reason it's unsustainable, probably, and I mean, I'm not a politician, right? So, yeah, but the reason that it's such a difficult quandary, I think, politically, is because the system is going to fail, and it has failed, and it's breaking, and some would argue it's not being used appropriately. Some would argue it's just not set up to be successful in the first place. For whatever reason, it's certainly not playing out the way I think we would like to see it play out. But it's really unfortunate that we can't, as Christians, live the way we're called to live. I think if we lived that way, I mean, even if just Christians paid the taxes that they're called to pay, it may solve the problem by itself, right? So I think there's a lot of things that we could do internally, and I do agree with you. I think that they are the strangers that maybe biblically that we read about. But man, it is a way bigger conversation than I am equipped to solve, and even really to have a true informed opinion. I think the problem for me as a Christian is that I have a heart for things, and it's hard to sometimes separate that from what a policy needs to be. That's difficult.
Yeah. All of it's difficult. It's way beyond my pay grade.
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, we should live out what the Bible says we should treat.
Sure.
You know, treat immigrants like strangers, and I think the Bible's very clear on that. How it works itself out in a policy thing, well, we're going to find out more about that in this election year,
that's right.
I'm sure.
It's a hot button, though, I'll tell you that. I mean, everybody has an opinion on it.
That's for sure.
Whether it's informed or not.
That's for sure.
That's right.
We love your feedback. We'd love to hear from you via email. We'd love to hear from you on our website. However you can get in touch with us, Facebook, Twitter, we read it all. We want to hear from you. Thanks for being a part of our show, because we do this for you.